Hi guys, it's glad for me to be here. I'm Phúc, and I want to start my sessions today with a question. What if I tell you that the Earth is flat? You might be wondering, what is this guy talking about? Like we have known forever that the Earth is round, but what if I can provide you with enough evidence to prove that the Earth is flat? Would you start to doubt, or you might find evidence to prove me wrong? Like my point here is that I think when we are presented with challenges that might require us to reevaluate our beliefs, we might have this tendency to prove ourselves right away instead of asking opposite questions. But today I want to share with you my stories and why I think that when we're faced with challenges like this, we should not be our best defender, but instead we should be our best critics, ask opposite questions, so as for us to find out exactly what truth is and to make our best decisions. Let me tell you my story. I grew up in a deeply religious family. Prayers before meal, church every Sundays, and the occasional God is watching you whenever I do something wrong. And even though I was really strict, there's still some questions in me, such as if if God created universe and who created God, or if different gods of different religions happen to be in fight, who would win? But those questions faded as I got older, thanks to strong faith, the warmth of the religious community, and most importantly, the answer prayers. I am deeply connected to my religions. They are there not only through my happy times, but through my dark times also. So everything I was taught in my religion seems very true to me. But life always open up new doors for you. The period when I go to Saigon, where I move far away from home to study, is when I expose myself to different ideas, often contradictory ones. I started to learn more about the world. I do research about religions, and I found out that the Exodus, one of the events in my faith, might not exist because the lack of archaeological evidence to support such events. And also, I learned that beliefs may not fix, like I've said, but it's going through a process of evolution, and this thing affects another. And finding out about this, I was really shaken because these things are always the things I've taken as facts, as truths. But if these things may not be true, then what else could have flown under the radar of scrutiny? So I determined to find out. I started to watch debates. I started to do research more on religions, and I started to ask questions why people believe what they believe. But I'm trying to be open-minded, but soon I realized I was making one major problems. I was not looking comprehensively, but instead I would find evidence, or I would find the arguments that suits my beliefs, that sounds true to me, and I would latch onto them, but I will ignore all the counter arguments or the things that might prove me wrong. Even this gave me the initial sense of comfort, but through a period of time, I would feel really bad because I had to defend my beliefs all the times and to ignore the things that contradicts me. But one day I decided, okay, this must end. This is enough. I asked myself, what do I actually want? Do I just want to build a shell for me to block me from things that may go my opposite ways? Or do I want to see, do I crave to see the truth and what's really out there? So I decided now to take a step back, to not defend anything anymore, but instead to judge everything. When I meet an arguments, when I have an arguments, I will not defend or oppose them, but instead I will take a step back and I ask questions. What are its premises? Are there any unjustified assumptions? Or am I holding any biases towards the arguments that make the conclusion not valid? And I find out that by not defending, by not opposing, but instead just judging things and observe things, and to ask questions and to ask critical questions like this, I can find the flaws in my reasoning and many things that I couldn't have found if I let comfort lead the way. Take this an example. I used to really love this argument. It sounds just really beautiful to me. The universe is very complex and governed by intricate laws. Therefore, a designer must exist. And previously, I thought it was really beautiful. Right? I feel a sense of awe and grandness that I belong to something bigger and greater. And it sounds really fun and logical for me too. But when I dive deep into it, when I analyze it, I found that it's less convincing than I thought. The first problem that I had with this argument is that it's assuming that complexity must implicate design. But is it really true though? Take life for example. We have a simple organism such as this bacterium through billions and billions of years of evolution, they can turn into more complex ones like cow over there. And this whole process of evolution doesn't just happen day one and day two. It's the process of billions of years shaping by different environmental factors. And they're really random and messy. You know, there's some error products and they die and then fittest one to survive. So complexity doesn't necessitate design. Another problem with this argument is that it may be making a categorical error, which means that it may be putting things in categories that they might not belong. For example, we know that this slide pointer is created and designed. We know also that this microphone is created and designed. But can we really treat the universe and its laws as an object that can be created and designed? I doubt so. So, as you can see, when I allow myself to step back, to observe, and to ask questions, not defending anymore, I found out that there are many flaws and holes in my reasoning, and I hold many biases that I wouldn't have noticed. And I found this extremely important because in our lives, we always have to make judgments. We always have to make decisions. And the thinking process that leads to our conclusion, to our judgment, can be affected by many fallacies and biases. And if we don't notice these things, we might make bad judgments, and we totally don't want that. Take this as an example. I think previously, a little bit about my previous relationship, I believe that relationship is more feeling based. It's like when I have deep connections with someone and there are incompatibilities, I would say to myself, oh man, you know, we can work this out because we have deep feelings, right? We can maybe there are differences, but you know, it doesn't matter as long as it feels good. But through failed one, I started to ask questions. Like, is it really true though? And one day I started to, you know, to sit down and ask myself question. I write, what's the fundamental things that help people to connect to each other? Is it really just feelings or there's just something more? And I realized that there are many more. There are understandings, there are shared values, and there are many other subs. And if I didn't let my comfort to go out the way and let my thinking process, then I wouldn't have noticed. So I realized that being a critic of yourself can help you see the bigger picture, the holes that may be covered by your different biases. So the question here is, what makes a good critic? And along the way, I found some key points to help me. The first one is to be a judge and stand neutral. What does that mean? So when we have our beliefs and maybe our beliefs are challenged, we might have a tendency to defend it, or we might have a tendency to oppose to the counter arguments. But I think doing this, we might making our biases to cloud away, or we're making our assumptions to cloud our judgments or something. So my way here is to actually just view them, not defending, not opposing. But you imagine a scale, you know, a scale of justice, a judge used like in here you put the arguments and the other side you put his counter arguments, and you just see the two are constructed, and when you're seeing, when you're observing, you ask questions such as which side is making more assumptions, which side is having fallacies, and which sides am I having reasoning flaws. And from there, you can pick the most plausible viewpoints. But how do we weight things? I might ask. And the second key point is to use your own toolbox. What does that mean by toolbox? So take this as an example. There are two ways for a manufacturer to present the amount of fats on their yogurt product. The first one is 20% fat. The second one is 80% fat free. So which one would you pick? Like a lot of people, they would choose the 80% fat free, even though they're the same. But the 80 seem to be more than the 20, and we don't want to be fat, so we choose the 80. But the toolbox here is to realize that 20% fat is actually equals to 80% fat free. And the toolbox is our ability to judge, to analyze the informations. And we can do this by learning about the different logical fallacies and the different cognitive biases that we may make. And by understanding how flawed our reasoning is, how many biases that we hold, we can make better judgments. But however, there's one important thing that I want to note though, is even though we have this common framework, logical fallacies and cognitive biases to weigh arguments and weigh things, but I think you must remember that people have different lens. People see the world in a different lens than yours. Maybe it's because of their environmental factors, how they are brought up. So it's not about who is right or who is wrong. It's not about who's you going to take sides and who's you going to listen to. But it's about you finding out your own lens, finding out how you're going to see the world, how you're going to analyze the information that you get, how you're going to make decisions and make arguments. That's the thing that you want to build. That's the thing you want to construct, not looking through anyone's else. And that comes to my last point is constant reevaluation. Now we can now when weighing after weighing things, we might pick a viewpoint, we might pick a world point, but a world view. But I think that human beings are flawed in reasoning. We are not all knowing. We have gaps in our thinkings, and our knowledge hasn't reached full. We haven't had the full knowledge of the world yet. So the best chance for us is to take a worldview temporarily and to open to change, because there's no point in picking a worldview and building a whole castle on it, because one day maybe it may fall. Today we know that the Earth is round, but what about the tomorrow? Some cosmologists just found out that the Earth is square. Maybe that's weird, but we might have to change our viewpoints. That's my point. So it's an opportunity for us to review and to revise our beliefs. So I want to conclude my talk with a quote from Richard Feynman, a physicist. He said, "The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool." We humans being always have assumptions and biases, and to make better decisions, to make better judgment, I think we must be the first person to remind ourselves of our imperfections. And from there, we can make more plausible and more reasonable decisions. Thank you.